My name is James Henry. We've got a chap called Fergus on camera.
Hello.
Hello, Fergus. And we're going towards, hopefully, some lions of the Black Rock Pride. We also have David the Ranger behind us, and the reason we're on a very bumpy road is because it's a fairly main road, and we're sitting pretty much on the border between two East African countries. This one is called Kenya, and just to the south of us, where perhaps you can see those mountains bouncing in the background there, that's in Tanzania. And what we're going to do is go back towards the Black Rock Pride that we saw this morning. A spectacular view we had of 3 lionesses and 9 tiny little cubs. It was a really distressing story this morning because the lionesses and the cubs split up. We didn't know what was going to happen to the cubs. They eventually made it back safe to their den site, so hopefully when we get back there they will all be okay. We've just got to get off this rather nasty road, and so while we do that, we're going to head across to Jaime Patterson, who's about, let's say, 40 miles off to the west.
I am very far away from James indeed. Hello and good afternoon and welcome to the Sunset Safari. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon Manu is on camera with me, and of course a special welcome to the 3 schools joining us this afternoon. I hope you guys are very excited to go on a live safari because we've got lots of things planned for you. Apparently James is on his way to go and see whether or not he can catch up with the lions and of course those adorable little cubs that he's been viewing over the past few days. We've got a similar plan but slightly different. We are looking for a female cheetah. Brent found her yesterday in this area. Now the kids joining us, some of you might know Brent, some of you probably haven't met Brent, but she's been spending a lot of time in this area. And the reason she's been spending this much time in this area is because she's got tiny, tiny little cubs. When little cheetah cubs are as tiny as hers are, they are kept in a den site. They're kept somewhere secret and safe. We've already been to check her den site. It's right up against the mountain, which is a great place. She's been a sensible mum in terms of where she's picked her den site, because it's one of the safer places away from most of the biggest threats to cheetah cubs out here. But because she's not home, she's obviously busy out hunting. The cubs won't come out, and we of course won't go up close to them while mum is not there, and we can't get to them because it's right up the mountain. So that's what we're doing at the moment, is we're looking for their mother to see whether or not she's found herself anything to eat over the course of the day. Whoopsie. Bump. We found, I can see something up ahead of me, something else with spots. And this is also the territory of a lion pride that I've spent a lot of time with. So if we don't find our cheetah, we could get lucky with lions. We could get lucky with all sorts of things. So if you have any questions on what it is we do or what you could see out here, remember we're live from Kenya. We will hopefully at some point be live from South Africa as well. So you actually get to experience 2 different African countries, all live and all happening right now. It is, of course, for you, first thing in the morning. Is that right? Yes, it is right. For us, it is late afternoon going on evening. Here we go. This is the spotted creature I found. It's not the spotted creature I was looking for. It's much taller than that. And there we go. There's actually quite a few of them around here, but we'll stop at the one closest. We've got 2 creatures here. One with spots and one with stripes. And they get really nice perspective on just how massive a giraffe truly is. If you think about a zebra being just a little bit bigger than a donkey, now you can compare and you can see just how large a giraffe is. Now that is a male giraffe that is standing there on the right. I know he's a male straight away, just basically having looked at his size. Then the next step is to have a look at the things on the top of his head. And I'm going to call them ossicones rather than horns, because giraffe are born with those things on the top of their heads. It's solid bone, and they're basically like horns. But the difference is that antelope are born without horns that grow. Now, if you kids who are watching are struggling to think of a question, perhaps there's something that you really like to know but you're feeling a little bit shy, chat to your teacher, ask your teacher, and they will be able to pass the question along to us as well. You can see some giraffe in the background as well, and some zebra. So there's plenty to look at out here. And what you can probably hear, or at least probably see, is that the wind is howling. And that's because I think there is some serious rain that is slowly but surely blowing across in our direction. Hopefully it holds off before the end of your drive. I'm going to keep trying to escape it though. But before I do, we have a question coming through from Blake. Now, Blake, you want to know how tall a giraffe gets. Blake, you're looking at somewhere between around about 12 to 15 feet on average, but they can get even taller than that. They can make 18 feet in certain circumstances, in record-breaking circumstances, even over 18 feet, all the way from the ground to the top of their heads. That's a really massive animal, and it's difficult to get a sense of perspective because you're looking through the eyes of the camera, but they really are tall, and when they come and they stand next to the vehicle, it's when you really get an idea of just how tall they really are. The reason that they are tall like that, well, one of the theories that's been put forward, if we have another look at him, we saw him earlier munching away on the leaves of the Balanites tree, which is that type of tree over there. That's one of the theories, is of course because then it means that giraffe can feed higher than any other giraffe. But there is another reason that giraffe have long necks, and probably actually the main reason why giraffe have long necks, and that's because they use them to fight each other. Now, giraffe are pretty peaceful animals. They're not territorial. They don't really get into major fights most of the time. But when a female is ready to mate and there are two big males competing for her, they will fight by swinging their heads around and hitting each other on the neck or on the shoulders, on the sides. And because they've got such long, very strong necks, those impacts are actually particularly powerful. And they can, in rare circumstances, even kill each other in fighting in that way. But that doesn't really happen all that much. There we go. We have a question from Frank W. Cox High School, and we do have quite a diverse group of ages joining us today. We've got 2 elementary schools and 1 high school. But a question from the high school is, do giraffe travel in herds? Yes, essentially, although it's not uncommon to see a giraffe on their own. So a giraffe is not like a lion. A lion will live together. Sorry, there's a fly that keeps trying to fly into my ear. It's driving me insane. A lion pride will live in a pride, the females, for essentially most of their lives, most likely. Whereas giraffe will form a herd. They'll come and go. Sometimes they'll move off on their own. Sometimes they'll wander around. But it's most common to see them together in a group, in a herd like this. And that proper collective noun, of course, is a journey of giraffe, or a tower of giraffe. Dabriel, how fast can a giraffe run? Surprisingly fast. Imagine if you had legs that were over 2 meters long, over 6 feet long, and then think about how fast you'd be able to run. Now, they've got 4 of them. And it looks like when a giraffe runs in slow motion, when a giraffe runs, it looks like it's running in slow motion. But they're actually covering ground incredibly quickly. And you're looking at around about at top speeds 30 miles an hour. So that's very fast. And most of the time, though, giraffe tend to stand and stare at a predator as a defense mechanism. Andy, again, you're actually looking at an animal that can live for quite a considerable period of time, well over 20 years in the wild, in the case of some of the older giraffe, especially female giraffe. So what you'll find for the most part out here is that most of the species, the females will live longer than the males. And that's because there tends not to be as much competition. It's not as dangerous for them. So provided they make it past their first year, which is when, of course, they are very small and quite vulnerable to something like a lion, chances are their survival chances increase dramatically, and they can live to over 20 years old. Now, this is a big, dark male, and he's probably, I would say, over 10 years old. highly, yes, giraffe do eat things other than leaves. They are mainly browsers. That is basically the predominant thing that they eat. In fact, I would say that 95% of their diet is leaves. But they will occasionally eat seeds. They will also, I've seen a giraffe bend down and eat a little bit of grass, but that's very, very unusual. You wouldn't consider them to be a grazer. And they also practice something else, which is known as osteophagy. Now, it's not really eating bones properly. So osteophagy means the practice of eating bones. And what they do is they pick up bones off the ground, and it's actually really fun to watch. And they put them into their mouths and they chew around the edges. So they basically grind that outside layer away and they swallow that. And a lot of animals do it out here. Obviously, the hyenas and the lions, they'll eat bones as part of their diet. But a lot of the herbivores will do it to supplement their calcium and their phosphorus intake. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that I was planning on searching for a spotted cat. Well, you're in luck. I might not have found one, but Scott has.
Hello everyone and welcome on board. As you can see, we have got very lucky. We've got 3 cheetah. It's a mother with her 2 boys. And they're relaxing at the moment, but they are quite hungry. And the mother, who's on the far left, has made 3 attempted hunts today. She hasn't been successful with any of them yet. You can see her stomach's looking quite empty. The last meal they had was not yesterday evening, but the evening before. Now, what's interesting about what happened today is her 3 attempted hunts, 2 were for smaller prey, Thompson's gazelle and impala, which would be easy for her to bring down if she managed to get onto one. And then the 3rd attempt was for a young wildebeest, which she actually did manage to catch up to, grab onto, but it managed to wrestle away from her. Her 2 boys weren't very much help, and who knows, maybe a little bit later on she will get up and active. My name's Scott. It's great to have you on board, and a very big welcome to the 3 schools that are joining us. I'm teamed up with Craig on camera. Hello to David. You'd like to know how many cheetah cubs will be born to your average litter, and 3 or 4 cubs is the kind of average litter size for cheetah, sometimes a little bit higher than that, sometimes a little bit less. So I'm not sure how many cubs she had initially with this litter, but she's done very well to raise these 2. It's incredibly difficult for cheetah to raise their cubs out here. There's a lot of threats to them, lots of lion, hyena. And the good news is that soon these 2 boys will be heading off. It's time for them to move out of the house, which means she will be freed up to give birth to some new cubs, and I cannot wait for that to happen. And if we're very lucky, we may capture some very rare and seldom documented footage of cheetah mating. And the reason why it gets seldomly documented is because they almost always mate at night. And we have the lucky permission to be out after dark. We're the only people who get to drive around the Masai Mara after dark. So who knows, maybe we will get lucky. You could see some rain falling in the background there. And that rain will be falling in Tanzania, and that rain is what's causing the migrating herds to move south away from Kenya down into Tanzania. Beautiful. Well, we are going to be sending you further south in the same direction of that rain, just a little bit before there, to James, who has got something rolling around in a puddle.
Look at this, we've got a lioness in a puddle. This is one of the lionesses of the Black Rock Pride. We went past the den where the little cubs are supposed to be. There were no adults there, and so the cubs are still inside. And so I think what we're going to do is just quickly show you this lioness, and we'll probably go back and very patiently wait at the den site for the adults to come back, because they will go back there and eventually suckle the cubs. Now, I'm going to show you something quite disgusting. And for those of you who are squeamish or perhaps quite young, don't worry. What we're going to show you is part of nature. And what we're going to do now is just swing across to the right-hand side, and we'll show you why she's panting. She's very full. They ate a zebra last night. There it is. And we'll just stay wide like that. And what you can see there is the insides of the zebra. It was a very good meal for 3 lionesses, and it means that, of course, they will be able now to feed their little cubs. So although it wasn't a very nice night for the zebra, it was a very good night, of course, for the lions. They have to eat, and that's how they do it. So sometimes nature can seem a bit cruel. And then, apart from the fact that she's panting like this, it's not very hot. She's panting like this because she's so very full of zebra. And because when they get full, they produce a lot of heat as they try to digest food, and so they have to pant to get rid of the heat. Then we've also got a number of very special birds around here. They are called vultures, and the ones that we've got here are called hooded vultures. They're called hooded because it looks like they've got little hoods on their heads. They are the smallest vulture species that we get here. And they've got very sharp beaks, and that allows them to get in amongst the bones of the dead thing that they want to eat. And I think in the United States, often you call what we might call vultures, you would call buzzards. And so this is what we would call a vulture. And then way beyond them, almost inside Tanzania, we've got a little group of elephants coming this way slowly. They will be under no danger from the lions. Kaylee, you want to know if lions can run very fast? Yes, lions can run very fast. Probably the very fastest lion in the world can run at around 50 miles per hour. That's 80 kilometers per hour, so that's very fast indeed. Much faster than, for example, Usain Bolt can run the 100 meters. Now, David, our ranger, has just spotted another lion coming. There she is. There we go. Dylan, I'm afraid I missed your question. Here comes the other lioness. You wanted to know, basically, I think, how much lions can eat. Well, the best way to answer how much a lion can eat is to think of you yourself, right? So I'm going to assume that you're one of the, let's say you're 8 years old, so you probably weigh in the region of 20 kilograms, which is in the region of 44 pounds. And so can you imagine that you could eat 10 pounds of meat in one sitting? So you had one meal and somebody put 10 pounds of steak on the table in front of you. That is how much a lion can eat, but even more, of course, because a lion's much heavier than you. So a lioness like this one walking towards us here probably weighs in the region of 250 pounds, and so she can eat around about, what should we say? Oh, she's so tired, you see that? She can eat around about 60 pounds of meat in one go. Isn't that amazing? Now, you also want to know how many lions there are in a pride. That can vary. It's not always the same. Sometimes it's as few as one, which is not really a pride, but sometimes a lion can live on its own. And sometimes there are up to 30 or 40 lions in one pride. That's very, very unusual, though. Normally, in this area and in the other area where we work, in the Kruger National Park of South Africa, the average number is 3 or 4 lionesses. That's what these are, of course, and then their little cubs. And in this case, it's 3 lionesses and 9 cubs. Remember, the males are not part of the pride. They live outside of the pride. Now, this is very special, but even more special, perhaps, to some, is the spotted cat of Africa with the cheetah man of Africa in the far north.
Well, as you can see, not much has changed here, but aren't we being spoilt on this afternoon's safari? Lion and cheetah already amongst a few other animals, and I'm certainly looking forward, like I say, to the prospects of these guys getting up and on the move. I'm confident that she will have 1 or 2 more hunts this evening. I'm hoping. She's just maybe resting a little bit. She has been here for the last probably hour and a half or so, possibly 2, so she should have her energy back and be well rested in time for some hunts before the sun sets, or who knows, maybe she'll get active after the sun sets. Hello to Alex. You would like to know, how big are cheetah cubs when they are born? Well, they'll be absolutely tiny, and I'm guessing probably no more than a kilogram in weight, possibly even less than that. They'll be blind and helpless little furballs for their first few weeks on the planet. And the reason being is that most predators need to give birth to young that are fairly underdeveloped, because if they were to wait for the young to develop too much inside their belly, then they wouldn't be able to catch themselves any food. It would be too difficult to run after prey, and possibly even while they were running after the prey, they would maybe cause damage to the young. So the youngsters are born absolutely tiny and helpless, and with a little bit of luck, Jaime is working an area where some tiny little cheetah cubs were found yesterday afternoon, and it would be absolutely wonderful if she could show you those. We're not sure how old they are. I think Brent, who found them yesterday, thinks he says they're only probably 3 or 4 days old. So absolutely tiny little fur balls. These boys are about 1.5 years old, and they'll be, like I said, moving away from home soon. And Dylan, you've just asked that question. You'd like to know, how long will cheetah cubs stay with their moms? Well, there's actually 2 sisters that left their mom when they were just 14 months old. And I'm not sure, I think that's abnormally young. And these guys are already a little bit older than that, yet they are still following mom. Maybe they're a little bit lazy and are enjoying her very good hunting skills. Even today, while she was out hunting and she managed to catch onto a young wildebeest, one of them was kind of in the general area trying to help, but the other one was a few hundred meters away. So they do have a lot more learning to do. Now, Elijah, you would like to know how long they can survive for without food. Well, their last meal was 2 days ago. So about 48 hours they haven't had a meal, and they could very easily go for another 2 or 3 days before they start losing a lot of energy and not being able to get their next meal. So I'd say anywhere from 5 to 7 days would be the maximum length of time that a cheetah cannot go without a meal. So it's a lot longer than you would think, especially if you compare the way we eat 3 meals a day, but they really fill their bellies up, and that's normal for predators to be able to survive a long time before their next meal, because it's very difficult for them to catch their prey, and they can go for days, with many hunts being unsuccessful. Julie, you'd like to know, what are a cheetah's dietary requirements? Well, I mean, the little bit of research that I've done, I kind of get the impression that it's around, on average, 3 kilos of meat a day. But that doesn't mean they can't have 9 kilos of meat in one sitting and then last the next 3 days comfortably without a meal. So there's a lot less routine, unlike us, like I say, who have our breakfast, lunch and dinner, and often a few snacks in between, depending on if you go past a milkshake store or not. But they don't have that luxury. That's why they need to be able to cash in, fill up their belly, and conserve their energy wisely between meals, and not just aimlessly run after prey and burn up precious energy if they don't in fact feel they are going to get lucky. Hello Ted, you would like to know, how fast can these beasts maneuver? And very quickly, faster than any mammal on the planet. And research suggests that it's around 100 kilometers an hour. I've never timed one personally. It would be very difficult to do. But it has, of course, been done with captive cheetahs chasing little furry fluff balls. And they say in and around 100 kilometers. There was a few reports that kind of mentioned that they could move up to 120 kilometers an hour, which is around 70 miles an hour. But I'm told that that is, in fact, not the case. And if we're lucky, Ted, we're going to get to see them unleash their furious speed after some antelope a little bit later. So cross fingers and have happy thoughts if you want to see these cheetah trying to get their next meal. I'm certainly very excited for that prospect. We've been out since midday in the hope that this lady is going to show us what she knows how to do best. Good. Well, while we wait for that moment to happen, as she scans the plains, we are going to send you across to Jaime.
with an elephant that is unleashing its fury on some grass, which is, of course, one of the predominant items of an elephant's diet out here. They eat lots and lots of grass here in Kenya, and they are, of course, mixed feeders. So that means that unlike the giraffe that eats mainly leaves, an elephant will eat grass, it will eat leaves, it will eat bark, it will eat tubers, anything that it can find, essentially, but they are strictly herbivores, unlike the cheetah and the lions that you've been with James and with Scott. Our elephant bull, of course, now has decided to turn his back on us. He was facing us so beautifully earlier. And it's not often that we get to look down on an elephant, since they are such massive animals, but we're above him, and he's in a river system, and I think he's enjoying the soft green grasses here. I have a question from Gracie about how much elephants weigh. Well, Gracie, you're looking at, for a smallish female, you're looking at around about 3 tons. That's 3,000 kilograms. That is over 6,000 pounds. For a really big elephant bull, 5 to 6 kilograms, that's not right, 5 to 6 tons, over 10,000 pounds. And in really record-breaking cases, you're looking at around about 15,000 pounds. So around about 7.5 tons. So they can get absolutely massive. They can get even bigger than that, but that's unusual. This is quite a small elephant bull. He's still quite, I'm not sure if he's that young, but he is quite small. I mean, that's relative. That's when you compare him to some of the other elephants that you see out here. I think that he's a little bit young. And he's separate from the rest of the herd because only female elephants and their offspring will live in a breeding herd of elephants. The males move off on their own once they reach sexual maturity. Oh my goodness, what an incredible day it has been already. You've seen a cheetah with Scott, you're going to see lions with James, but Steph back in South Africa has beaten us all because he's got 2 of the biggest cats in one sighting.
Everyone, my name is Steph. You haven't met me yet, but I'm all the way down in South Africa as opposed to on the equator with the rest of the guys that you've met already. That's Jaime and James and Scott. We've got something very, very special going on right now. I've got a leopard in the picture right there. She's between the trees there. It's a female leopard. I'm going to see if I can show you, and then I'm going to show you why it's so special. Leopard, very difficult, very elusive cats to see, and you can see her walking down there. Look at that, through the trees. That's a female leopard, and while she gets settled to drink, which she's going to do now because it's been a very, very hot day, oh, she's going to be beautifully in view for us. Look at that, what a treat. Leopard drinking, full daylight, can only happen in this place, really, to be honest with you. Some of the best leopard viewing in the world. That's a female leopard. I can tell that just because the face isn't as muscular as what you'd expect from a male leopard of the same size. Male leopards are almost double, not quite. Hey, look at that. I will show you exactly what happened now. She's running away. And you know why she's running away? Have a look right next to us, right here. Look here. There's a big male lion lying 5 yards from me at the moment. And what happened there was she caught the scent of lions lying close by. Now, this lion didn't even realize there was a leopard drinking right here. If it did, they would have tried to hunt that leopard. That leopard would have now making her way and making distance as far and as fast as she can from these lions. I'm very, very happy that she got a mouthful or 2 at least. There's not just this male, there's an entire pride of lions lying over here. I wonder if that leopard's going to climb a tree or carry on running. That was very cool. Now, Ava, you'd like to know how old a leopard can get. Ava, in the wild, they live for between 12 and about 16 years, and in captivity they live for about 16, with the oldest being around about 20 years. And the reason that they don't live that long in the wild is because it's really hard to live out here. You've just watched something that happens fairly often with leopard. This leopard at least got to smell the lions. In most cases they don't, and leopard and lion are in competition all the time, and things like hyena and lion and starvation and injury from the types of food that they catch can have an effect on how long and leopard live. It's called the longevity, so around about 12 to 14 years. And just have a look at this, blissfully unaware. I want to go forward a little bit. These lions are not going to do anything, and I want to show you that leopard. We'll come back in a little bit. That leopard is not going to stick around for very long. Oh, there she is in the tree. So she managed to jump into the tree. That is quite common. So she obviously got such a big nose full of lion that she decided that treeing herself was the best option. I personally think she needs to get out and create distance. Bree, you'd like to know how fast leopards are. Leopard in short bursts can achieve around about 80 to 90 kilometers an hour in very short bursts. Look at that silhouette of a leopard in the tree, the quintessential position for an African cat. She's still looking for the lion, she hasn't seen them. Now, where she was drinking was a depression, and I think the wind had concentrated the smell of that leopard, of those lions, in that depression, and when the wind changed and brought that smell to her, it was overwhelming. That reaction that we saw there was a proper panic reaction. She is beautiful. You can see that very wary look. That response that she had was a response that she was almost born with. Leopard who do not react like that to lion don't last very long. She'll probably come down the tree in a bit. She's not very comfortable where she is. I think she picked the wrong tree. She just picked the closest tall tree to where she was. Make distance when you see a lion. That is the key. Now she's looking around. She'll probably be able to spot it. Wow, that's cool. Callie, you'd like to know why the leopard's curling her tail? A leopard's tail is like its mood stick. It allows you to basically judge the mood. That's one of its functions, and they use their tail for a variety of reasons. One is for balance at speed, so it's like a counterbalance. It allows it to be a little bit more agile. Another one is as a signal to their babies. So the tip of the tail is white, and they will wag the tip of their tail as a communication to their babies, as a way of speaking to them. They obviously don't have words. They use facial expressions and the tip of their tail to communicate. And why I say it's a mood stick and why she's curling it is because when they are agitated, the tip of the tail gives away their mood as well. So she'll flick it from side to side, up and down. Just by watching her tail, you could almost relate to the mood that she's in. I keep on looking over our shoulder. Those lions are still unconscious. Wow, that's beautiful. Look at those almost green eyes, that face wide open. She would have had a shot of adrenaline going through her body. Her body's reaction to smelling lion, danger, danger, and getting out of there as quickly as she can. Leopard are supreme at climbing trees. There's no other large cat that climbs trees as well as what they do. Will lions climb trees? Yes, of course. They're just not as good with it. Leopard have got a special adaptation in their wrist joints that allows their wrists to basically lock, and so they can't rotate, and that allows for climbing of trees to be much easier than it would be for a lion, who's not only bigger but also doesn't have that adaptation of a lockable wrist. Mrs. Amy, you'd like to know if leopards hunt at nighttime. Yes, they do hunt at night. They hunt any time of the day, but they are better at hunting at night. So leopard, being solitary hunters, will hunt whenever the opportunity arises or when their body tells them they need to. Hunting at night allows them to put into greater use that beautifully camouflaged coat that they have and all the other adaptations that they have for hunting at night. If we go closer in on her face, you'll notice her big wide eyes with a fairly large pupil. You'll notice those whiskers that allow her to feel her environment in the dark, and you'll notice underneath her eyeball, on her eyelid, on the bottom eyelid, it's white. That's to allow more light to reflect into the eye and give her more light to see with. That is amazing. What a wonderful treat to be able to show you right off the bat this afternoon. Now, from a cat in a tree to a flat cat in the grass, we're going to be sending you 3,500 miles north to my friend Scott.
Well, aren't you guys getting spoilt this afternoon? Big cats everywhere. And good timing that you joined us, because it looks like this lady has just decided to wake up. Oh, a yawn is a good sign. Lion, leopard and cheetah all like to yawn before they get up, so this is promising. But just like us, sometimes we hit the snooze button, so I'm guessing that's what she's doing. She's just easing into the afternoon/evening. Hello to Adler. You would like to know how to tell the difference between a cheetah and a leopard that you've just seen with Steph. So I'm going to ask Craig to just zoom into the face of that middle one probably. Let's start on the face. Now, you'll notice that this young boy has got some very distinctive, what we call tear marks that run down from the inside of the eye down the side of the mouth on both sides of its face. Oh, it doesn't want to play ball with us, but you would have seen that. And the leopard do not have those. Also, if you stay tight, Craig, on the spots, cheetah have got spots, whereas leopards have got rosettes. So you can see there's just solid black dots all over that cheetah's body. What leopard have is more of a rosette. So it's kind of like a black, almost broken up circle with a golden caramel inside. So those are two main kind of visual distinguishing features that you'll notice. But also leopard are much bigger and bulkier. Well, not much bigger, but rather let me say they are more bulkier, better built for wrestling prey down to the ground, whereas cheetah are better built for speed. So they are kind of built like greyhounds. They are slender and thin compared to leopards. So I hope that helps you. Another thing that would help is that if you see something high up in a tree looking very comfortable, that would be a leopard and not a cheetah, because cheetah are not good climbers. So I'm told you did have a leopard up in a tree now. It would be unlikely that a cheetah would be able to climb the tree nearly as well as that leopard did, if you managed to see that. Nor would it be as comfortable to sleep up in the tree as the leopard. So there's a few things that would help you tell the difference between a leopard and a cheetah. Good question, Adler. Another good question has just come through from Gracie. You would like to know if all cheetah have got the same spots. And the answer to that is no, they are all different. So essentially the cheetah spots are like our fingerprints. Everyone has their own unique pattern, and the same goes for zebra and leopard and anything really, giraffe. All animals look slightly different to one another, just like us as humans. Well, I'm hoping that these guys decide to get up soon, but you just never know what's going to happen on safari. And I think I'm going to probably drive around onto the other side of them just to get a view of their face. But before we do that, I would like to show you some potential food that's not too far away from them. AJ, you would like to know if cheetah will always travel in groups or in coalitions, and no, they won't. Female cheetah will ordinarily travel alone, unless they, of course, have got cubs like this one, or, you know, she's still looking after these two boys, even though they're big. So cheetah mothers will only look after their cubs. They will never move with other female cheetahs. The male cheetah are different, though. Male cheetahs sometimes form teams, and there's a strong chance that these two males over here are going to form a team and maybe let some other males join in, and who knows what will happen after that. How many flies are on me at the moment?
It's taken me quite a while to perfect the art of keeping still, and I think it's because we need to learn to accept animals, even if they are the frustrating ones like flies, and not let them bother you. But it's difficult not to get ticklish when they do this. Let's have a look at the Thompson's gazelle. It's lying down over there, so it'll be tricky for them to creep up on it because it's not preoccupied eating its food, but there is a possible snack that these cheetah may decide to chase a little bit later. Like I said though, I think it's got nothing to worry about because it's doing nothing other than looking around. It's going to be very, very difficult for these cheetah, but maybe they will prove me wrong. In the meantime, you're going to be going all the way back down to where you came from with Steph.
Got in the tree, and I must ask forgiveness. I initially thought it was a female leopard, but it's actually a young male leopard now that I've had a good look at him. And he is called Thamba, and he was born in July of 2016. So still a young animal. They're only really considered adult at about 2.5 years, and he'll be considered a dominant male at around about 5 to 7 years old. So still a youngster in terms of leopard and leopard years, and we hope to see him for many months going forward. He still looks very uncomfortable. He's not going to come out of this tree because these lions are close by. He's going to have to at some point, and in my opinion it's best to do it while it is still hot and these lazy cats are busy sleeping next door to him. Right now he's giving us a beautiful view of himself in this tree. He couldn't have picked a better spot for us, and definitely for one of the rarest of the African cats in terms of sighting. Now Grace, you'd like to know which one weighs more, cheetahs or leopards, and funny enough Grace, they weigh about the same. So a big male leopard, well, a big male leopard might weigh a little bit more if he's exceptionally big, but around a big male leopard is around about 60 to 80 kilograms, and a big male cheetah is around about 60 to 80 kilograms, with the leopard pipping the cheetah at the post when it comes down to the scales. They can pack on a little bit more weight, they're a little bit more muscular, and the same goes for the females. The females are female leopard anywhere from about 35 kilograms to about 50 kilograms, or 60 kilograms at the heaviest, with cheetahs exactly the same, with the leopard females just pipping the post again, mainly because they can put on extra muscle depending on the food that they eat. Just have a look at how he's balancing on that branch and think for yourself. For those of you who have ever stood on a gymnastics beam, you'll know how difficult it is to do. This leopard is doing it nonchalantly and with 2 more appendages. Now, Angel, you'd like to know if leopards spend a lot of time in trees or only to escape predators. Angel, they do spend a lot of time in trees. They spend time in trees to escape flies. They spend time in trees to get into the cool breeze when there's no breeze on the forest or the savanna floor. And then they spend time in trees when they have kills in trees. So they put their kills in trees to get them off of the ground and away from hyena. And they spend time in trees getting away from predators like you're seeing them doing now. And when they're young like this, they just spend time in trees because climbing trees is fun. So they also spend a lot of time in trees. I don't think the majority of their day, is still spent walking around on the forest floor. But when they do jump into trees, you get this view that you've got here now. That sort of quintessential African portrait of a leopard in a tree, and I say quite a rare thing to see. And leopard occur outside of national parks. Lion, funnily enough, are rarer to see than cheetah, but they're not commonly seen. They're very elusive, so they're rare to see as a sighting because they're very secretive, elusive cats. Was one of the few places in the world to see them in the daylight, and like we are doing from so close, and basically without having an effect on this cat, being right where we are now in the Kruger Park in South Africa, right at the bottom of the African continent. All right, it's come to that time of the show where I have to say goodbye to all of you from the schools that have joined us today. I just want to say thank you very, very much, and I'm so happy that we got to show you the wide variety of cats that we did. It was truly amazing. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you again next time.
Good afternoon again to those of you who are not in the school drive. You finished school some time ago, or perhaps you're still at school, but you're not actually at school. Well, here we are, still with the lion cubs now. My name is James Henry. We've come back to the den site. 3 of the more adventurous ones have been popping out and playing a little bit on the rocks there. And then we are waiting. We found the other female down there. 2 females at the kill. So we're going to just sit here and wait for the happy reunion that will occur when eventually the lionesses wake up from their sort of engorged stupor, I suppose. They've eaten themselves silly, and then hopefully they will feed on these cubs and playtime will ensue. So that's what's going to happen. We're going to wait right here where we are. Please do talk to us using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Otherwise, you can use the comments section of the YouTube broadcast that you're watching. And, well, we'll probably do a couple of Facebook Lives if the lionesses return to this area. And then you can talk to us using the comments section of whatever social media platform you happen to be watching. It's wonderful to have you with us. You're welcome to ask us any questions. If you weren't with us this morning, well, I will tell you we had a wonderful time here. Exultant, kind of, nerve-wracking at some stages. We had the 2, we came here very early on. We waited for 2 hours. And before, eventually, I said, that's it, let's go. And Fergus said, wait, I see the lioness. And one of them came over the hills, joined up and withdrew all 9 cubs from this den site here, and they went down. We looked like she was going to try and take them to the kill, but halfway there they seemed to either get tired or she got bored or hot or whatever it was, and there was a rather nerve-wracking time during which half the cubs decided, no, to hell with this, we're going back to the den. And they turned around and they just left the lioness and came scampering back here, completely out in the open, broad daylight, on their own, very dangerous behavior. The other 2 lionesses were none the wiser. They remained gorging themselves on the zebra that they killed last night. And eventually we came back here and we found that seemed like the majority of the little cubs had gone back here and were back in the den. 2 of them remained with the lioness who had originally come to fetch them. 2 from different litters, they were definitely different ages, and the 2 lionesses that were eating remained on the kill, and that's how we left the situation this morning. Now we've come back here. 2 lionesses still on the kill, 1 lioness lying in the shade away from the kill, halfway to it, and then the cubs back here in the den. That is the situation that has unfolded so far. Now, Molly, I don't know the answer to this question. You say it's a wonderful picture. Did all 9 cubs make it back here? I don't know, Molly. 2 of them were with the lioness that came to fetch them. They remained with her until we left them. We are hoping that the other 7 got back in here. I don't know if the other 2 then came back here during the course of the day. I'm not sure what happened. We eventually had to go and have a bit of a clean up and some breakfast, and so we just come out now again, and I'm not sure what happened there. So, Molly, I'm afraid I can't tell you, but with any luck that will be revealed. And I'll just quickly show you, basically straight over the top of my left shoulder is where we will hopefully have sight of the 2 lionesses coming eventually as the light starts to fade. All right, let's head back across to Jaime Patterson, who's in roughly that direction, a bit to the right-hand side. She seems to also be having a bit of a cat fiesta.
I'm having a cat day. I'm having a lovely cat day. It's actually been rather lovely. So we've caught up with the Angama pride, and we've actually stumbled upon something quite interesting. I've been fleeing the bad weather that's coming in from the south, and we've stumbled upon an interesting scene. We've got Giraffe, we've got the Angamas, and we've got... Where'd they all go? Oh, there they are. a herd of buffalo that was about to walk into the Angama Pride. It looks like they've changed their direction, though, and the rest of them have moved away. I wonder if they realized that the lions were there. Now, the Angamas have been hunting buffalo since the wildebeest disappeared. Well, they didn't disappear. We know exactly where they went. When they went back to Tanzania, the Angamas have been focusing on things like impala, warthog, and buffalo as well. But at the same time, we've also seen the Angama Pride chased by buffalo before. Multiple times. They do have their little ones with them. I can see a few cubs in the background. Lioness glancing across at the giraffe. Unfortunately, in an awkward position. We can't get much closer than we are now. The giraffe have spotted them. But they are lying out in the open, and there's vultures gathered in the top of that dead tree there, Manu, just up and to the left. Let's just have a quick look. Yes, those are vultures, which to me suggests that these Angamas already have a kill. Somewhere around there, they've already caught something, and the scavengers have gathered. That never precludes a lion hunt, though. If something does stumble, it applies to all predators. If something does stumble upon feeding lions or feeding leopard or anything like that, there is still a chance that a predator is a predator, and there is still a chance that they will try and go for them. Now, just a quick reintroduction for those of you that have been watching or perhaps just joined us, since we are back to our regular sunset safari. My name is Jaime. This afternoon, Manu is on camera with me, and we've been out on an all-day adventure. We've had a wonderful time, have we not, Manu? Yes. We went right down south to the Tanzanian border. We saw 2 cheetah boys, the border boys. Unfortunately, they were fast asleep and very far away. Speaking of interesting sightings and interesting things, we're going to sit and watch how this situation plays out for a little bit longer, which of course is exactly what Steph has been doing with young Tumba and the potential lions.
Thank you very much, Jaime, and quick as a wink, you go 3,500 miles south all the way to South Africa, and to myself, Steph Winterboer, and a leopard, a young male leopard called Thamba. He chased himself up this tree, really. There's some lions lying behind us, about 10 yards or so behind us, and he got a noseful of their scent while he was drinking some water close by, and had an absolute panic and ran up this tree in an effort to get away. And I think what happened was he just got an overwhelming scent of lion, and at very close quarters. Those lions didn't even know he was there. They didn't react. And now, Judy, you'd like to know if Tumba ran away or wanted to run away, would he be faster than a lion? Judy, it's a good question, because academically, on paper, they run. Quite often you see leopard falling victim to lion. Excuse me, I just had a problem with my microphone pack there. And of course, being a man, I can only think of one thing at a time. Or only do one thing at a time. So Judy, to answer your question there, academically they run around about the same speed. So you're looking at a lion which is roughly 4 times as heavy running at the same speed as a leopard, and that is around about 80 kilometers per hour at maximum sprint, with a sustained sprint of, tough to say because you hardly ever see leopard running in a sustained way. You see lion running after wildebeest and zebra, and they'll put up a good sprint for a couple of 100 yards, and they probably average out at about 60 kilometers per hour. But quite often leopard do fall victim and fall prey to lion, and it's because I think lion hunt cooperatively, and they'll actually cooperatively hunt a leopard, and a leopard will come around out of a tree or out of a bush unsuspecting, and in running one way, rather than be caught by the lion that was chasing it, they'll be caught by others in the nearby vicinity. I don't know if that really answered your question, with the exception of saying that they're around about the same speed. If he wanted to run away and he wasn't ambushed, he'd probably keep the gap between him and the lion, and that will then allow him to climb up a tree, a different tree, or disappear into some thick brush that the lions couldn't follow him in, mainly because of their bulk. And he just looks so uncomfortable at the moment, I must be honest with you, battling to balance on that little branch. Interestingly enough, without him having to walk over to the thick branch on the right hand side, he actually won't find a better limb to lie on. And I think they purposefully do that, you know. I think that leopard absolutely know which branches are best, similar to how you know which chair is best for you. He's looking away from these lions now. What is interesting is yesterday, and on almost exactly the same path that he approached this dam on, we had Hosanna, and Hosanna came through here last night, found a dead impala that had died next to the road. It was lying next to the road. He then fed on it for a while last night, and it was stolen by the lions that are now lying behind us. And he has now come out of the bush and is now walking in the same direction as he was walking in the same direction as what Hosanna was. And what's quite interesting is the fact that these male leopard are the same age. They're not dominant, they're still juveniles basically, maybe sub-adult at 15 months or whatever it is now, but following them around. Now, Richard, you've noticed that this leopard's tail is very long. It is actually, it's actually longer than their body length, and unlike a cheetah's, so Scott has got some cheetah today. Notice the cheetah's tail is not round. When you have a look at the cheetah's tail, you'll notice that the cheetah's tail is flattened dorso-ventrally, and it's also weighted at the end. A leopard's tail is cylindrical and tapers to the tip. And it's used very similar to the cheetah. It's used as a counterweight to help high-speed maneuvering. So it gives them agility. But in the leopard's case, it also gives them a longer center of gravity, which allows them to climb trees better. In a cheetah's case, the flattened, weighted tail throws the back end of the cheetah around faster at high speed. Now, it is obviously, this week is World Animal Day, and we are celebrating World Animal Day with a couple of specials. Yesterday was leopard, today is lion, and speaking about lion, Jaime has some young cubs which are playing in the grass.
It is indeed World Animal Day this week. we have a cub that's vanished. Can you still see it? Oh yes, there we go. A little cub that's being naughty, and you've all heard of the expression "curiosity killed the cat." In this case, the cub's common sense actually won out, but it's something that we've seen with the sausage tree pride cubs as well as the Angama cubs. They're getting to that age where they're starting to stretch their hunting muscles just a little bit. Unfortunately, they have a tendency, both the sausage tree pride and the Angama pride cubs, to go and test their skills on buffalo herds, which isn't particularly clever on their part. They are most definitely not big enough to take on one of the biggest creatures out here. Even their mothers are reticent to tackle buffalo herds, and the buffalo do fight back. Luckily, this little cub has decided to turn around and move away. At this age, they're pretty much fast enough to escape from any sort of buffalo charge. But it was very entertaining watching the sausage tree pride the other night, because the one cub got lucky. Pure luck. It happened to, the buffalo bull stumbled on the entire lion pride, and this cub went dashing after it. And because it got such a surprise, because it was dark, because the buffalo bull was on its own, it just happened to run away. And the sausage tree pride cub decided, no, this is a great game. Obviously, I'm very big and very scary. and decided to try and chase an entire buffalo herd, which did not go nearly as successfully. There is another creature lurking, another predator, a hyena on the outskirts of the buffalo herd. I think probably more focused. Ah, you horrible creature. Just lay down. It was wandering around very close to the buffalo. Oh, there we go. There's another one. There's actually two there. Yes, you're going to get chased. I think actually more likely keeping themselves entertained until they have a shot at the Angama pride's kill, whatever that may be, and whatever's left of it. But we've seen them harass buffalo regularly. Brent's seen them hunting buffalo. I've seen them hunting buffalo before, but half-heartedly. And it was more that they were just chasing them around to keep themselves entertained. There we go. There's the second one's just sat up as well. What are you two up to? I think you'd struggle, just the two of you on their own. Hyenas are intelligent, and they do get bored. It might also just be that they were resting up somewhere around here and the entire buffalo herd came wandering past. Look at that buffalo at the back. It's been for a mud wallow. Oh, we're sitting with hyena, buffalo herd, and the Angama pride. Let's go across to an Agama.
Mwanza, yes, indeed, a rock Agama of sorts. It is a Mwanza with its purple head, a male Mwanza, and we saw his wife here yesterday and possibly his young son or daughter. They were knocking about on these rocks around the lion cubs. But the lion cubs are now back inside their hidey holes, unfortunately, and so I can't show you them. But that Mwanza has flattened himself against the last remaining warmth of the day. It's been a very odd day from a weather point of view. It was hot down in the valley where we spent the few hours between the two drives. Really hot. And as soon as we got out of the valley, the wind started to catch us again. And, well, there you can see the, well, I suppose, what would we call that? The product of the weather and the wind. A big storm now falling over the hills to the north of Sala's camp and probably off towards the river. I don't think it's raining yet anywhere near where Jaime is, but it is raining, and Scott is a long way north of that. But it's certainly raining again in the afternoon here in the Masai Mara. And it's not hot where I'm sitting now, and there's a sort of cool breeze blowing in, and that Mwanza will be thinking, oof, I just need a little bit more warmth for the day before I can scuttle down and avoid the lion cubs, while scuttling down into my hidey hole, which is shared with 9 little lion cubs. Ooh, Ilana, you ask a very good question. You're 14 years old, and you say, if the lioness was around here and we got out and started walking around her cubs, would she charge or run away? She would almost certainly charge, Ilana. They are very protective over their youngsters, and they would take the risk to attack, I think. It would be quite interesting to note what would happen if you then stayed with the cubs, if you then tried to sort of grab one. I think you'd be in trouble. I think that she would probably then get quite physical quite quickly. And so it's the one thing that you've got to be really careful of when you're tracking. And Steph found, of course, the Ngahuma pride on foot, what was it, 2 days ago? Or was it this morning? No, it was 2 days ago. And he and Herbert would have been very careful indeed about whether or not they were following the very small cub tracks with the Ngahuma pride tracks, because if they were, well, then as Herbert likes to say, you're gonna dance. And what he means, of course, is that, you're going to have a lion pretty much under your feet, and you're going to want to dance around and move out the way pretty quickly. And the Mwanza has gone away. David, you say, how will these cubs react to a male lion at this age? They would love to have a male lion around, as long as he wasn't trying to bite them. And if he was part of the coalition that fathered them, then absolutely he wouldn't bite them. He would sort of lie about, and often the males are pretty tolerant of the youngsters that they have fathered or that they're uncles to, and it's the most heartwarming thing, of course, to see a big male lion playing with a cub or tolerating a cub leaping all over him. And it's because we have this human instinct, or human human recollection, I suppose, of experiences with our own fathers when we were that little, because it's a very uniquely human thing to have sort of parental relationship with your father. Very, very few mammals do have that relationship, and so when you see it happening unusually in the wild, it's fascinating to see. I can't see any further signs of the lions, but the sun has come out, which is quite nice, so I'm just going to quickly peel my binoculars onto the horizon and see if we can't spot the lionesses coming this way. But at this stage I cannot, alas. Right, Stefan Winterboer is out. I'm assuming he's in a vehicle this time round, and he is with, of course, Thamba, and he wants to tell you a little bit more about Thamba in 3 seconds.
We are still with Tumba, full face view of him, still sitting in the tree, still nervous about these lions, still indecisive as to what to do. Now, I'm told that James was busy speaking about male lions and how they tolerate cubs, and it's in stark contrast to... is he going to jump down? It's in stark contrast to how Tumba would have experienced his father. Lions are social species that are contact species, and although the males are on their own mission most of the time, they will tolerate their cubs jumping on them, and with a bit of a growl and a hiss and a snarl, they'll accept a bit of bullying and a bit of play wrestling. Male leopards, on the other hand, have a much more subtle relationship with their father. You will very rarely, it does happen, but you'll very rarely see them in even the same proximity as one another, and they absolutely won't tolerate a young male leopard being a bit boisterous and playful with their father. That does not happen. So this young male leopard would have grown up knowing, I think at an instinctual level, who his father is, because adult male leopard don't tolerate youngsters, and I struggle to believe that male leopard do not know who their offspring are and do not keep in contact with them. I think they absolutely do. I just think it's at a more remote, in a more remote and aloof way. So a very different experience is my point, I think, between male leopard and male lion, and in the way that they treat and in return are treated by their cubs. I think it just sort of adds to the mystery and the romance of a leopard, though, and to the power and the majesty of a lion. Penny Pine, would a lion chase this leopard up a tree? Male lion, full-grown male lion, no. They're a little bit too... They do climb trees, but a small tree like this, a full-grown male lion would stand at the bottom, perhaps growl a bit, maybe try and jump up a bit, but he'd be a little bit too big, I think, to get to Tumba. A sub-adult male lion? Yep, potentially. A lioness? Yes, potentially. Generally what you'll do is you'll see sub-adults, like 2.5, 3 years old, pursue leopard up into trees, both male and females. But adults on both sides, they won't waste too much of their time. This leopard will climb right up to the top of that tree. So this leopard has the capacity and the ability to climb right into the very top branches of that tree, and will do so standing on the thinnest branches, spreading his weight out. I've seen it on numerous occasions, and will be way out of the reach of lion, especially a tree like this that doesn't offer good purchase for their claws, and bark flakes off, and no horizontal branches. So lions would lose interest pretty quick. If they could get to this leopard and kill it, they will. I think they would prefer that there was some kill there. I think the greater incentive would be that there was some meat to gather from the tree. If there was a kill here, then they would make a more concerted effort. Oh, look there now, he's busy stretching out on that branch. I think he's getting a little bit agitated with, look at that, that's a lovely screenshot there. So, take away. It's not often you get to see leopard doing that. See that paw structure. Where are you going? I think he's going to want to climb down. He's not very comfortable. Let's see what he's going to do. Are you going to go up higher, or are you going to come down, boy? Come down. No. Don't get stuck up there at night time. Another fantastic picture of his two legs in the front there. He's definitely not comfortable, and I think his youthful exuberance now, his fear is over. He's realizing that he's not being pursued and hunted by these lions, although every single second he stays in this tree and in this proximity, he runs the risk of the breeze wafting his scent onto the lion. Currently the breeze is coming from basically behind him and behind the lion and wafting diagonally across from them, so there's no ways that the lion can smell him right now. But you never know what an errant current would do. And these lions would definitely react to a leopard being so close to them, absolutely. Where is he going now? Up to the top? I think he's chosen the height route over the creating distance route. And I think that that's testimony to how young and inexperienced he is. An older leopard would have assessed the situation and then climbed down and created distance. That's the only safe thing to do around lion. This youngster is increasing his risk exponentially every second he stays in this proximity. Darlene, you've asked if Tumba sees some prey, would he stay put or go after it? Ooh. Darlene, I think you'll probably stay put with an increase in agitation. The reason for that is he's going to be and is aware of these lions right here. And they represent a much greater threat currently to his safety than hunger does right now. And you can see the way he's lifting his head and having a good look at what's going on. That he is just choosing the safe option. He's probably going to wait here until the lions move off, which is a couple of hours. He loses nothing but a couple of hours of patrolling, and at least he gets to know what these cats are up to. You can almost feel the indecision. He just doesn't have the experience. He lacks the experience. He lacks mom. Her name is Tandi. He lacks mom's wisdom in this particular, scenario. He's trying to get comfortable. He knows the top of the tree is the safe place instinctively. He can see the lions from where he is. He knows that as a cub, the safest bet was you climb to the topest branch and you stay there. And you wait there until mom comes and fetches you, or the lions move away. And I think we're just seeing the tail end of that experience, that sort of inbred genetic experience coming through. And it's lovely to see, actually. There's very few things of this size in the world that you can basically watch the workings of the mind of an intelligent being, and you can see and feel the indecision. And as Megan has just said, this pose is just classic. What are you doing, Way? You're trying to look relaxed and charming, but yeah, he's looking at me now balefully with his eyes, staring at me. I may not insult him. He's old enough to understand an insult before going back to his watching awareness. It's been a fairly hot day. The clouds are coming over now, and it's starting to cool down. It's definitely the day's lost its edge, and lions will start to wake up and stretch around sunset, which is still an hour or so away. Now, the Mara is an hour ahead of us, and so much closer to sunset, and so our cats that the rest of my friends are sitting with are a little bit more active than these ones are. So why don't you can have a look at Scott's cheetah, who are starting to become active for their evening.
Well, we're in luck. Malika and her two boys, who she's looking back at now, are up and on the move as the sun slowly begins to set, and it is a beautiful, beautiful evening, as you can see. Magic stuff, and I'm very, very happy that she has decided to get up and on the move again. It is 27 degrees Celsius at the moment, and my name is Scott Dyson. It's great to have you on board. I've got Craig on camera, and there were a whole bunch of Thompson's gazelle in the direction that they are heading in now. They may have moved off a little bit, because I cannot see anything in the immediate vicinity that they are heading in, but I'm confident if they do come across something, they are going to chase it and try and eat it for dinner. So that is something to look forward to. Let's hope they find some possible prey. It's a magical, magical evening, and they've spent the last couple of hours, maybe 3 hours by now, just snoozing, and that's after a few midday hunting attempts. It was quite hot in the middle of the day, yet she still had 3 attempted hunts, sadly all of which were whilst we were back at Camp Old Shaky having breakfast and charging up the vehicle. So unfortunate timing that we missed that action, but hopefully we will get lucky this evening. Hello Priscilla. You'd like to know how many cheetah are found in the Mara, and I would say about 20 at a guess. I'm not sure anyone knows exactly how many cheetah there are. It's such a vast area that's quite difficult to explore, especially the western edge along the Ololola escarpment. There's lots of long grass there and kind of fairly untraversed tracks. But yeah, my guess would be 20. I mean, there's 8 that we know of that are a kilometer apart from one another. There's 5 males and these 3. Like I said, the males are about a kilometer away from here. They made a kill of a wildebeest this morning again. We were just in the wrong place at the right time. So yeah, I'd say at least 20, maybe up to 30 cheetah. And we've been spending time mainly with these 3, a coalition of 5, 2 sisters. And there's been 2 or 3 across on the other side of the river recently. There's a few more coalitions of males. I think there's 3 coalitions of 2 that traverse this area. The thing is, there are no fences, so the animals are free roaming from here to the north, further into Kenya, or to the south into Tanzania. Okay, magic stuff. Always wonderful to see cheetah on the move. They may go for an evening drink, or they may get caught up and find some dinner beforehand. We are going to reposition to get you some better views of these cheetah and whatever they get up to. And while we do that, we're going to send you to one of the mammoths of the wilderness.
Several mammals, in fact, several large mammals. In fact, in terms of tonnage, lots and lots and lots and lots of mammal. We've stumbled upon a herd of elephants that's around about, I would say, 30 plus strong. Probably 2 herds actually combined. And it's actually a really lovely, peaceful sighting now. Everybody's gone to go and have a look at the Angamas as they feed off what I think looked like a buffalo kill. A young buffalo. And we've got the Ellies almost to ourselves as they move through this forested area. Beautifully peaceful. There's one tusked female. She's quite distinctive, and I see her regularly around this area. And it still amazes me just how large the tusks are on the female elephants in this area. Much, much longer and larger than those that we see in South Africa, or at least in the Sabi sands. So she's missing her right tusk, probably broke off very close to the root. But it might have been that there was a genetic disorder that meant that she never actually grew that particular tusk. But usually when you see an elephant with one tusk, the most likely explanation is that she's broken it. But it's just that sort of structure around the base of the trunk where you can see the bulge where the tusk protrudes from. On her right side, that's very sunken. It's almost like there was nothing there at all. A one-tusked female. There's another one in this herd with no tusks. I've lost her now. Which is natural. About 4% of elephants born into the wild are born without tusks. Unfortunately, that percentage is growing in certain parts of Africa, thanks, of course, to the problem with poaching. Obviously, the elephants with no tusks are the ones that are most likely to survive, and therefore most likely to pass on their genetics. Hence why it's becoming more prevalent in certain areas. But most, in areas like where we are in Kenya and in South Africa, you're looking at around about 4%. Do not forget, of course, because this is a live safari, to send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. Bear with me one moment. I'm just going to wave it. Hi, guys. Passers by. And then we can sit and enjoy the elephant sighting. And speaking of enjoyment, I think it's time to head across and back over to James so that you can spend more quality time with those gorgeous black rock cubs.
Unfortunately, the gorgeous black rock cubs seem to be hiding again. Now they keep popping up and then popping down again and then popping up and then popping down. So let's give them a minute or two. They were up for a little while, and now, naturally, as you've come across to talk to us, they've disappeared. There's just an ear or two poking up. I think they're hungry now, and I think that they're quite longing for Mum or Auntie to come and give them something to eat. But as yet, no sign of returning Mum or Aunt. But we do have a bit of a cat smorgasbord at the moment, don't we? We've got the cheetahs, 3 sets of lions, and a leopard, which is really not bad going. So I don't feel too bad just sitting here and waiting, because I think if we do wait for long enough, I think the reward will be enormous. And then all will say, it was so worth it was worth it, wasn't it? And so we're just going to keep looking. Come on, stick your heads out. Come on, kids. Oh, what a very good question, Raza. You say, how long can these lions survive without water? You're just 9 years old. Raza, these little cubs don't have to drink at all. You know, they will, a little bit like a small baby, they will be able to get sufficient water from the milk that they drink from their mothers. And for the adults, they do drink from time to time, but they can go many days without drinking. They get a lot of water from the food that they eat, from the prey that they kill and catch, and they use that water very effectively. And so while they will drink if they can, they don't have to, sometimes, for 3 or 4 days. And these cubs don't have to drink water at all. They do a little bit. There's a puddle just beyond, or just to the left of where you're looking now. There's a little puddle of water that's formed in the rocks here. And because we've had lots of rain, there is still water in that little puddle there where you can see those little green sprigs of grass. Well, sometimes the cubs go down there and they have a drink, and they play a bit over there. But they don't have to drink, Raza. The wind continues to blow. The storm that was coming this way seems to have dissipated, which is excellent news. We might be in for a quite nice starlit evening, and we will have an almost full moon tonight. So really, as Scott likes to say, some excellent prospects if we just hang around here and be very patient with what happens. I will also tell you, maybe we can look, Ferg, I don't know, can we look straight through there to where that herd of wildebeest is? I don't know if you can see them. I'm sort of over the top of my hand there we are. Yeah, and I think maybe even further than that. Yes, up a bit and to the left. Yeah, there we go. You can see them there. Now I don't know how many wildebeest are around about where Scott is. I drove through that herd somewhat by mistake earlier today, and there are quite a few of them there. I'm going to say there are about, I don't know, say 20 or 30,000 wildebeest around that area. So still quite a few for those cheetah to hunt, quite a few for the lions to have a go at, as and when they so desire to do so. But now it would seem that the buffalo and the zebra are the ones taking the hammering from the lions in this area at the moment. And I suspect the impala also, for Malika and her youngsters, are going to be the ones that get smacked up a bit. I also saw a few largish herds of Thompson's gazelle today, and that was quite interesting because of course we don't think that the Thompson's gazelle have really arrived en masse this year. They may have just turned around and gone home. We've got another cub with its little ears up now, and it's entirely possible that the Thompson's gazelles will come in now, but for those cheetah I think that impala are really going to be on the menu, because they're a bit slower than the Thompson's gazelles and they provide slightly more of a meal. That said, those gazelles will still get taken from time to time. Oh goodness, they're very irritating the way they keep disappearing. Oreo, are you wondering about when they will wean and how long they take to wean? The way I remember it for lions is like this. For those of you who are religiously inclined, I apologize, but I remember it like this: 666, of course, the number of the devil. 6 days before they open their eyes when they're born, 6 weeks until they're introduced to the pride, 6 months until they wean. And so that's how I remember it. And obviously there are variations on that, but that's basically what it is. So 6 days to opening their eyes, 6 weeks before they join the pride and start to wean, and then by 6 months they should be fully weaned. Now, I mean, we've definitely seen the Nkahuma pride trying, or their cubs trying to suckle after the 6-month period, and I think that often happens when a pride has got, say, a number of litters of different ages. So if there is a lactating female, I mean, prides, little cubs up to a year will try and suckle from them, but you'll find that this bunch, which I think range between 5 and 8 weeks or so, will probably wean at almost exactly the same time, around about 6 months. Here we have a little cub. Hello. Now, one of my very favourite cubs in the whole world is the one that Steph is looking at now, and it is, of course, little Thamba, the one with the big ears.
He's really standing tall in this tree. Have a look how high he's actually climbed from where he last was. If we can zoom out a little bit, you'll see that he's standing at the top of this knobthorn. He can probably get a little bit higher than that, but higher still, and he'll end up on branches he doesn't want to be in unnecessarily. Now, right now I think he's just looking for a comfortable place to sit. He sort of hasn't been comfortable since the beginning, and now it looks like he's found himself a horizontal branch. But isn't that just incredible? Right up at the top of the tree. Keeps on looking over at these lions, who are honestly doing nothing except for looking like tawny-coloured piles of fur in some long grass at the moment. They're not doing anything. They're not staring at him. They're not smelling him. I think his anxiety is just increasing